Good evening and welcome to another episode on Disqualified Dads. I am your host, Farouk, those who know me. Mr. Ryan will be on very shortly. He's on another conference call. As soon as he's with us, I'm going to bring him on. I'm not going to mess about. We're going to jump straight into it as soon as he's here. But until then, let's just have a little catch up, a little bit about my case. Coming up to 3 years, major delays in the family court. Massive delays, nothing in sight. Ultimately, nothing anyone can do. My situation is it's very common now, but mine is unique at the point of where these delays started. These delays seem to have just started with my case for some reason, and has gradually got worse. And my case effectively is lost in the system. So, kids, if you're watching, it's out of my hands. I'm trying my best. Currently, we are literally at the mercy of the people around you and their egos. That's it. I'm competing with the people around you who claim to love you, who claim to care about you, who claim to have your best interest. I am competing now. I am fighting their egos. That is it. Nothing else. It's just about them, their egos, these narcissistic personalities. And first comment of the night. This real, people don't believe it. I think what is bizarre and astounding is the family courts, CAFCAS, they don't currently recognize parental alienation. It is a taboo. The word parental alienation in family court is a taboo. They call it a pseudoscience. Now, to think, right, 2024, I mean, when you look at all it's the era of information, the era of information technology. No one can plead ignorance on any one subject. If you don't know about something this day and age, it is just ignorance. But to my shock parental alienation, I knew about this before I entered the system. Everyone understands what this is. It is something psychological. Like when you're sitting in a room with someone, the game of power, you know who's got the upper hand, you understand social cues, you understand what parental alienation is. Now, the fact is, in family court, in social services, CAFCAS, this is not recognized. It is a pseudoscience. It is a pseudoscience. It is not recognized. It is not actioned. Again, it just shows the powers to be, the forces at work, and how powerful they are. But look, I'm not going to go off into a rant about that. Let's go back to the subject, Mr. D. Let's go back to what I was saying. So the point is this: coming up to 3 years, you sort of wonder what's going to happen. Where's this going to end? What do I do? All I can do is show up and keep trying, keep helping others, keep creating exposure around all of this. Like I said, there's a lot of people on a daily basis that encounter and start this journey ultimately. So I've got to keep showing up, keep putting information out there. But look, that's who I am. For those who don't know me, going through my own journey, hence I'm here creating exposure. Now, recently, I've been following this case with Conor McGregor. He's been done for in the civil court, I may add, for rape allegations. He's got to pay out whatever 250,000 euros. This is a civil case, not a criminal case. Hence, he's not going to go to prison. The CPS said there wasn't enough evidence to prosecute him. So, though people are looking at him like he's guilty, and there's a lot of people on the other side, sort of really calling out for this. The fact is, this is a civil court. It's a financial settlement ultimately. And I've looked at some of the evidence, and I've followed other YouTubers who have presented some of the stuff about the case. And you can make your own judgment or opinion on what you think happens, but that's not what I want to concentrate on. I want to concentrate on Conor McGregor's wife, Dee Devlin. I think that's her name, Dee Devlin. Now, if you look at how she stood by him, tweet she put out on was it Twitter X, whatever it is, she's standing by her man solid. united against the world. Yeah, old school woman. Yeah, known him. They've known each other since teenagers. Been with him from day dot. Standing by him. Obviously, they must have had their trials and tribulations with all of these sort of things. But old school woman standing by her man. I don't think they don't make him like that anymore. I think we'd be very lucky this day and age. Anyone this day and age, you get a woman like that, would be a very lucky man. He's got a legit diamond there, a legit diamond, old school, with you for life till the end. You know, got your back no matter what. That's what you call a solid woman, and they don't make them like that no more. Unfortunately, from what I'm seeing in this whole area, this whole field, this whole divorce industry, this whole abuse industry, family court industry, the women that I encounter and come across, I talk about marriage and all of these things, and the cases that I hear now, marriage, relationships, for a lot of women, unfortunately, are a very transactional thing. It is clearly very transactional, and as far as the Asian Muslim community is concerned, Asian community, I can tell you categorically, it is a very transactional thing. It is become a transaction. And it seems to be a lot of men find themselves in trouble in these relationships when they need the backing of their partner. When the times ain't as good, suddenly they start counting. They start counting. They start looking at their investment. They realize, why am I having to invest? I'm not getting anything back straight away. That hypergamous nature comes out. Seen it many times now. Seen it play out many times. Seen the pattern, unfortunately. So yeah, Conor McGregor, you're lucky, man. You got a good woman there. D. Devlin, shout out to you. Credit and respect to you. Standing by your man, supporting your man. Simple. Yes, Mr. Darren, I agree with you. Don't marry. I mean, fortunately, I said fortunately, in the Muslim community, we just do a religious ceremony. So I would say, look, do your religious aspect of your marriage. Again, though, do not do a civil. Not that, not doing a civil protect. Once you have kids, the element of the civil doesn't necessarily, not having a civil won't necessarily protect you once you have kids. That's the thing. That's what people don't realize. It's just once you legitly do a civil, once you do a civil, any little rights that you had, you lose them as well. That's the problem. Just to remind you, Mr. Ryan will be on shortly. The link is at the start of this video. If you want to join the stream, if you've got any queries or questions for Mr. Ryan, jump on, join the stream, bring your questions. All right, I've got a question here. This is a very good question here. Now, if you look at my earlier videos, if you go on Instagram, this live started at 9 o'clock, by the way, just literally just started, yeah, waiting for Mr. Ryan. So I'm just catching up, touching base, covering a few bits and bobs until he gets here. Now, let me tell you how I survived, Mr. HG. Let me tell you how this works. Firstly, look, if you get a chance, go and see all my earlier videos when this channel started, yeah, which was November 2022, around that sort of time. Go onto Instagram, look at all the early videos. I mean, what you see wasn't like that then, man. I was in a bad way. I was in a bad way, yeah. I was living out the back of a van. After 25 years of almost working every day, eventually stopped working. Had to give up work because I had to really, every ounce of me, I had to give this every ounce of me in order to survive and focus, deal with the trauma and push forward. It was a very logical decision that, you know, working with electrics and tools when you're in that state is not healthy. And again, living at the back of a van, you just got to shift your mindset to the trenches. Like I said, when you are cornered and you've got to fight, your adrenaline's going, you're in trauma, your nervous system is shot to bits, you can produce, you know, strength and energy, and you can create things that you couldn't normally. Like right now, if I had to do something by choice, I couldn't do it. But if I was backed into a corner, if you're forced to fight, your true character will come out. Your nature, your true nature, the base core of your character will come out when you're cornered, when you're stripped off everything. When you are stripped back to the bare bones, all that is left is your character and your heart and what your baseline character, what your foundation is. When you're stripped back to foundation, you'll truly know who you are then. You will know your true nature. You'll know what you're made of. And at that time, again, daily going through trauma, can't sleep, you don't eat. You're just going round in circles, literally constant pain. You're in constant pain. And then one day I just snapped. I thought, I need to pull myself together. I need to deal with this in a clinical manner. I need to focus on what needs to be done, what I can do, not what I can't do. Focus on what you can do. Don't let what you can't do stop you from doing what you can do. And I pulled all of this together. I looked at all the skills that I had generally in life, all my abilities and skills. I looked at the skills I didn't have. I looked at where I need to bridge the gap, what I do need to do. And then these ideas started, because you're in constant trauma, nervous system shot to bits. I effectively rewired my brain and aligned it to work towards my goal, which was to expose this, fight the system, do whatever I can, any means necessary to get close to my children ultimately. So yeah, I mean, there's a lot more to it, obviously, which I'm going to go into. Shout out to my brother from America, American Fathers. And when I started the channel, I connected with Big John from America, and we connected, we spoke, looked at his channel, we spoke a few times on Instagram, connected, we've been on this journey together, we've exchanged ideas, and you know, this guy's really supported me. So look, shout out to him, follow his channel, he's on YouTube, and I give it to American Fathers, right? American Fathers, he is consistent. You want to talk about man of steel? This man is a man of steel. Man used to wake up at 3 o'clock in the morning, go to the gym. 3 in the morning, he used to work out. I remember, I'll never forget that. Oh, and also on Instagram and YouTube, he's been consistent. His channel's going to go. I can see it is he's chipping away and it's growing slowly. But he's going to hit a certain point where something's going to go boom. He's going to hit it. Because he's consistent. He's consistent with his uploads. He's consistent with his content. He's well read. He has read books and books and books. He has done book reviews. He has also not seen his daughter for many years. He's got a daughter that's, if I remember correctly, she's over 13. I remember correctly, he hasn't seen her for well over 5 years. He's been fighting the system. And in America, unfortunately, it's a lot worse than it is here. So look, guys, there are guys suffering. Like I said, completely different guys from the other side of the pond. Again, the struggle is the same. The battle is the same. The struggle is the same. And there are many out there struggling and suffering. Many out there. Hence, American Fathers. Hence, disqualified dads. And in the new year, just want to put it out there now, I'm going to will this and manifest this into existence. Me and John, we're going to be on a live stream on YouTube at some point in the new year. Me and John, we've got to make it happen. We planned it once before, wasn't meant to be. Instagram went down last time we were meant to have a live stream. But next year, me and John, we're going to talk about this. We're going to talk about what's happening in America. How are the laws there? What men can do out there? We're going to try and shed a light out so we can cover all aspects of this. But John, stay safe, keep at it. Keep chipping away. I look forward to the day where me and you are doing a live and having an open discussion. But yeah, listen, going back to what I was saying, how you survive. Until Mr. Brian gets here, let's talk about the survival mechanisms and tactics. Number one, you're in this space. You find yourself in this situation. You're estranged from your children. Your finances are in tatters. You're effectively homeless. 9 out of 10 times, you're living out of a vehicle. First thing I would say is get comfortable, get used to it. By torturing yourself, teasing yourself, when am I going to go? When's this happening? These thoughts, it's the unknown that chips away at you, and the deterioration starts from the unknown. It breaks away at you. It breaks away at your psyche. You keep having visions of your past life. You keep having visions how you were with your children. Now you're not, how you were sleeping in a bed. Now you're sleeping in the streets or your van or mum's house or friend's house. You're just literally hustling and getting by. If you haven't got a vehicle, what you need to do is this. You call in those favors. Listen, If you can sleep at work, let me tell you how you operate. You work shift, for example, you work in a building, let's say maintenance, you work a shift or something like that. I would just say sleep at work somewhere. You find a little cupboard somewhere, sleep at work, sleep on a friend's sofa. I was even, listen, if I went somewhere, someone offered me a tea or a biscuit or a coffee or a meal, I'd take it, I'd eat it. I'd ask for more, I'd ask for extra. Don't be ashamed. It's your time of need. These people are your true friends. All of these things are not a big deal. The other thing I've noticed, remember this, you're in a heightened state of emotion. When you are in trauma, your emotional state is highly sensitive. You can sense what someone is saying, what they're trying to say, how selfish they are they concerned. You've got this sixth sense, and you will notice how selfish people can be. At your most dire time of need, you will notice people will still talk about themselves. They'll go on about their own problems while they've got their house, their job, their comfortable life. You're floating between life and death. People will still somehow make it about them. They will still somehow make it how to do you a favor. Like, you will notice certain things. You will notice a lot of people, and you will notice how truly selfish people are. And that's opened my eyes. This whole scenario, this whole situation, this whole journey has truly opened my eyes to what human beings are. We're talking friends, family, relatives, strangers, everyone. You can see people, listen, people are only about themselves. That's what you'll notice. But you can't focus on that. So hence, you need to be about yourself, your situation, your business. Focus on your journey and your path. Number one. Number two, try and maintain standards. Have your toothbrush and toothpaste with you at all times in a little bag, man bag, whatever it is. Yeah. Keep these things with you. Try and keep yourself clean. Just maintain some standards, because once you keep sliding down, it'll just get faster and faster. Right. Yeah. Listen, as soon as Mr. Ryan gets on, I will bring your question up, Mr. SA. Just stand by. Just stay with me. He's just on another conference call. Number three, focus on what you need to do. Start doing research. Start watching videos like Disqualified Dads. Start learning the system. Number one, start learning the system as best you can. Number four, question everything, question everyone, question everyone's motive. Number five, trust no one. We're going to write a little book. We're going to be, me and Mr. Ryan will be coming up with a little ebook. Will be the 10 Commandments of Family Court, and I'll be putting in there. He'll be putting in the 10 Commandments of Family Court and how to survive, and in there will be also 10 Commandments of how to survive. How to survive, and we're going to make a little guide that anyone can just download and just read, and it'll give them a basic idea, because you can get overwhelmed with information, and also having no information also doesn't help you either. So that's what we're going to do. But I'll give you the basics. Look, if you've got a vehicle, understand you're in the trenches. You need to shift your mindset into a survival mode. So like I said, imagine you getting into a fight or an altercation. In that moment, when you have to pull it out of the bag, your adrenaline's high, you're capable of doing things that you wouldn't normally do. You are constantly in that state 24 hours. When you're not with your children, you will be in this state for months. Now, this state of being can destroy you, it can self-destruct, or it can propel you, it can move you forward. You have to decide. Your brain still has the capacity to decide how to use this trauma, this pain, this emotion. And let me tell you something. Pain gives you focus. Pain gives you concentration. Pain can be fuel to create momentum and action. Pain is a great motivator. Now, I'm not saying this. Psychologists have said that understand how the brain operates. On a subconscious level, every decision you make is based upon two factors. There's two filters that it goes through. You're either moving away from pain or you're moving towards pleasure. When you're in a consistent state of pain, your brain will go to places and it has the ability to think and do things you wouldn't normally do. So you harness that in the right way, you channel that in the right way, and then you realize the capability you have is no less than anyone else. All the things that you looked at in your life and thought about when you looked at other people, oh, look, how can they can do this, but not me. The question is, you start thinking, why not you? Because pain will give you that sixth sense, that ability to focus and drive and concentrate. Now, listen to me, I've been in this journey 3 years. The ability to focus and concentrate that I don't have that right now because I'm not in that constant pain. The pain has dampened. I have adapted to the pain where it's so normal now that it's just part of my day-to-day living. So my constant, when that fire goes out, like I said, the fuel is running out. The ability to push and propel, that concentration is no longer there like it was. But when you're in that trauma space, you feel that your nervous system is shot to bits. You rewire your brain and align it to work towards your goals. That's what you do. That's how you survive. You have to understand your priority in this situation is your children. You need to get closer to your children. So another great weapon that people underestimate, the power of patience. You know, to truly practice patience, I think people assume patience is weakness, it's an ego thing. I think patience on some subconscious level is seen as weakness. Hence, people do not appreciate the power of patience. You need to take a step back. There's going to be no immediate answer. Your key thing is you start believing that you're going to do this. You can do this. You're going to get through this. Yeah, that's what you got to remember. You got to stop telling yourself that. Then once you keep repeating something, your body doesn't know. When you say something positive or negative, your body doesn't know the difference. Bruce Lee said that. Quote from Bruce Lee: never say negative things about yourself, not even in a joke, because your body doesn't know the difference. Hence, if you started saying positive things, if you started genuinely believing, you will truly find out who you are and what you're capable of. Before I entered the system, I'd never even had a Facebook account. Forget YouTube. I never even had a Facebook account. I missed that whole decade of Facebook. I was a dinosaur. I worked on tools, man. That era of social media left me behind. I'm a different generation. Never kept in touch with these things. But when the moment came, I had to adapt the tools and the means that were around me to use them for my goal and my purpose. So I use the tools and mechanisms that I have. So that's the other thing. Use the skills, tools, and mechanisms that are available to you. So I looked at the skill set that I had, what I have produced in my life outside of this. What am I capable of? Can those tools and skills be adapted? Everyone's capable of something. You could be good at networking. You could be good at talking. Oh, great, you're a good talker. You're good at connecting with people. That can be used in family court. You can engage. Let's say, look, I've got a mundane voice, yeah? Let's say you're a professional. You come across, you could use that in family court. Let's say you're good with your phone. You're good at calling people. You're good at networking. You use that. You're good with technology. You use that. You write down. You sit down and you write down every single skill that you have, every single asset that you have that you can leverage against your goal. And that goal is to get close somehow through the system, by practicing patience, by studying, by getting all your skills and assets together. Where you do not have the skill, you go and get the skill. Skill can be bought, learned, trained. You learn. There's no reason, no excuse for ignorance this day and age. And then you leverage that against your goal, your target, your mission, your purpose. But again, when you're in that pain and trauma, you have to take that clear step to say, right, I'm channeling this energy, this fuel and anger. Because once you get to a point of frustration and anger, let me put it another way, when you don't give a shit anymore, those invisible boundaries and barriers that held you back in life, going in front of the camera, making some noise, going to a march or protest, talking to someone, whatever it is, when you get to a point where you don't give a shit ultimately, when that switch flicks, yeah, you are truly free. When you have no fear of any consequence, you are now truly free. And to truly be free and let your spirit, let your inner voice out, it's a very liberating experience. To truly find out what you're made of and what you're capable of is a very liberating experience. But the key is your self-talk, your internal monologue. You have to start believing. And this is what I say to those people who have no faith in anything, ultimately atheists, people that generally don't believe in anything whatsoever. In order to have belief that you're going to overcome this monster, this challenge, you overcome this mountain, you have to believe in something greater than yourself, something greater than this obstacle or challenge, something greater than the evil and the oppression that you're facing. And this is what I call, you got to build your spiritual gas tank, because in those later rounds, in those, you know, when they say in a fight, I use martial arts analogy, in the fight, when they say when you're in the deep waters, in those later rounds, they see what a fighter's made of. When you get to the 8th, 9th, 10th, in the deep waters, they say what's in your heart. That spirit, that true fighting spirit, that spiritual gas tank, it doesn't come like that. You have to build your spiritual gas tank. So when I say to people, when I coach people, I tell them there's 5 types of growth. There's this academic growth, learning, mental growth, emotional growth, spiritual growth, and physical growth. The physical just envelopes all of the other aspects of growth. It just envelopes it in a nice, good appearance, physical appearance. But that is the fifth. But spiritual gas tank, just like all your other gas tank, all your other endurance, has to be built. Bit of spirituality, bit of praying. I say to people, if you've been neglectful of whatever your religion is, listen, whatever you believe, I judge no man and what he does, it doesn't believe. But I went back, I've got to be straight about me, man. You know, obviously, you know, Muslim people, they always generally have their baseline core, you know, may swerve here or there. You may not meet all your daily prayers. You may not have been to the mosque. You maybe only go Fridays on the Jummah, go for your Friday prayers, but Monday to every other day, it's lost somewhere. I had to go back. Listen, you have to work on every level. I had to go back. I started praying 5 times a day. I started praying every time I'm driving. I started talking to God. I started talking to Allah. Because I started believing. I believe that like I said, whatever you believe in, understand, you have to believe in something bigger than yourself. Once you believe in that unknown, the unseen, something bigger than yourself, and you accept that, he can do things that you can't do. He can change things. He can create miracles. Hence, from living out of the back of a van, I'm here in the studio now. From making videos in a van, I'm sitting in my own studio, and I'm going to build another studio, proper podcast studio. It's being built as we speak. I'm working on it slowly as we speak. But whilst I was laying in the van, driving around aimlessly on days, complete hopelessness, people trying to draw emotion out of you. You're trying to hold yourself together, but the stress that other people give you, you're trying to manage that, trying to hold it together, to visualize this day. The patience, it took 2 years of living off grid. And this is what I'm trying to say. In that 2 years, what happens is most people, when you're sitting in limbo, you have no idea of the future. You have no idea what's happening, and you have no idea what's going to happen. You're in constant pain. You have visions of your children every day. Your life that you have built, you know, your whole life's work is falling apart in front of you. You are facing oppression from all angles, from the system, from the government, financial problems. You're practically homeless. Like, you know, we talk about fall from grace. Your life snatched out from under your feet overnight, and with no end in sight. That's when people do stupid things. They can't hold it. They can't hold it together. They go crazy. They lose it. They one emotional moment. If the emotions take over, they do something crazy. They end up in prison. They end up on drugs. They end up on drink. You see these guys homeless. If people wondered how they got there, that's exactly how you'd end up. Listen, I've been there. And this is what I'm saying. To crawl through all of that, holding it together, just focusing on the task at hand and chipping away. And the basic rule of survival is you just need to get through that day, get through that hour, get through those 6 hours, 12 hours, get through the next 24 hours, and start channeling that pain towards what you need to do. Sit down and work out, what do we need to do? What do we need to do? What is the next step? What do I need to work on today? What idea do I have today? Just focus on that, work on that. I'm going to make a full video. I'm going to do a full stream on the survival. There's a bit more structure. It's just that someone asked me in the comments while waiting, I thought I'd go into it. But there are so many aspects of the survival that needs to be covered that I'm going to go back to that, start from the beginning again. We're going to go through it all again. But there are many lessons that I've learned. Again, the lesson that I've also learned going through this now, I read now, try and read now. I've now given myself a challenge. I'm going to be reading one book a week. I'm trying to aim for now. I've got to pick up my reading game. I'm well behind. I'm 20 years behind in reading. I need to pick it up. I'm going to be reading one book a week. What I suggest is you start reading. Start filling your subconscious with information and knowledge. Another thing, advice I'll give to fathers or those going through the system right here. The other survival aspect is the problem with some of these fathers groups and hanging about other fathers or other people who are going through the same situation. They drag each other down. Negativity is not good, because then when you keep hearing negativity, negative stories, and there's a lot of horror stories, when you keep hearing negative, combine horror stories with all the negativity and the negative stories, it seems hopeless and pointless. Once you lose hope, it'll affect your action. You won't bother doing anything. And what happens is that doesn't help your situation, and you just fall. You just go into a decline. You go into a sharp decline. Hence, again, right, the guy that just put this comment in now, right, listen to me. Right, you see that driving you mad? That's exactly what happens. This is where you need to pull yourself together, yeah, because this is not about you. This is about your children, yeah. It still drives me mad now, 3 years later, but listen to me. When it's fresh, when that pain is raw, that raw emotion, yeah, you are truly in touch with yourself, yeah. There was times when I was in that pain. It was something like when you're going through that trauma, but once I channeled it the right way, I was so energetic and so positive. I haven't felt like that forever, and I don't even feel like that now because the pain has subsided slightly. But you're so alive, and you're in pain. That means you're alive. Now, what I say to you is this: it's driving you mad. But we need to now remember this love that you have for your children. You need to put your children first. You need to compartmentalize your children in the back of your head. Someone say, right, what do I need to do? Because the problem is when you're focusing on the pain, you're not focusing on the task at hand. The task at hand is you're a father. You need to protect your children. So you need to put your energy into what you can do. There's nothing you can do about this pain. What you can do is take this pain and let it work for you. Let it work towards getting closer to your children. And you need to put your children first. You need to remember the priority here is whatever happens to us is whatever happens. But you have to know that you did the best you could in that given moment in time. And to know that you're doing the right thing or the best thing is to think, what is this for my children? When guys talk about self-deleting, they talk about self-deleting because I understand it. I get it. Listen, I used to pray for death. I remember I used to go to bed at night. I've documented this many a times, and I used to think like when people say this, they think like you're talking from a mental health perspective. I'm talking. What happens is when you're going through this trauma, understand this: all other past emotions and traumas come to the surface. You have a heightened state of emotion. You suddenly evaluate every single relationship you have. I'm talking mom, dad, brother, sister, friends, best friends, colleagues, and you weigh everything up. You can now see every relationship for what it is. And then all the other trauma comes up, all the other issues from all parts of your life. And then when you see what you truly have, how people truly perceive you, by conversations, you see how selfish people are. Even when you're going through this, you're floating between life and death. People will talk about you. You can sense these things. You can see in their voice. You can see into someone's heart. You can cut through the shit and know exactly what someone means because you have that sixth sense. Now, when I was going through this, I evaluated everything, and I still noticed people wanted something out of me. I had nothing to give. So then, when I started this channel, mate, I was tunnel vision. you're not for my cause, you're not contributing, I don't need to speak to you. I have no interest. When people tell me about their problems, they need a favor, I think, well, you've got your house, you've got your kids, you've got a job, your life's pretty good, man. Why are you asking me for something? You still notice people want something out of you. Someone still phones me up asking me for money, like you're having a laugh. Someone's like, people are selfish. But when you become that pain, when you're in that pain and trauma, you lose these boundaries, and you can become quite blunt, which can also be a good thing. Because then you realize that most of your life you've probably been a people pleaser. Worried about upsetting someone, can't really say no. You learn about yourself. Yeah. And what I'm saying to you is this, again, going back to the point, you compartmentalize your pain. You focus on the goal and task at hand, tunnel vision, focus on the job at hand. Yeah. Like I said, it's like you got to look at this like a job. There's a job you need to do, and you're going away. It's like you're working abroad for 6 months, 8 months a year. You're not going to see your kids. That's how you got to look at it. You're not going to see your kids for 6, 8 months, year, 2, 3 years. But my case, 3 years doesn't matter, man. I'll still keep chipping away. I'm going to get there. I believe I'm going to win. I'm going to get there. When I say I'm going to win, my kids are going to win. Because they'll only lose if I give up. Remember this. You will never know what could be if you gave up. If in the last 2 years, somewhere I lost it, I lost my head, did something stupid, because it looked hopeless, it seemed impossible. But here I am, in my home, that people, let me tell you something, everyone said it's not going to happen, impossible, but I didn't believe it. I believed it in my heart, and I took action because of that belief. Remember this, it's only over if you give up. In 2 years, I could have done so many stupid things and lost my head here completely. I did a few stupid things, don't get me wrong. But if I'd have lost my head completely and not kept composed, like I said, practicing patience in the face of humiliation and adversity, fighting demon, mate, you're down and out, you're homeless, living out of a van. In 2 years, the amount of things that could have gone wrong, and I won't be sitting here now. But sitting here now, I could have never have seen that. I'll tell you another thing. I'll let you know another secret. On my other channel, this channel here, where is it? This channel here. That's my, where am I? That's my DIY channel. There's a video coming on there soon. I'm building a workbench. Now, let me tell you something. What's so significant about this? It's just a workbench. But whilst I was homeless, living out of a van, you start having visions of things that you never appreciated. I never went into my workshop as often as I should have. I was always talking about starting my DIY channel. I was always talking about doing this project, that project. Never got around, never had time. So when I didn't have all my things that I had before, my possessions, all my worldly possessions I had no access to, just overnight gone. Even the clothes on my back, I didn't have, like nothing. Living out the back of a van, I had to go buy some socks and stuff that I kept in my van because I didn't have any socks, only the socks that I was wearing. The pair of socks that I had that I was wearing, that's all I had, that's all I took with me. Now remember this, I used to have visions of these things, the clothes that I had that I never wore because I was always working, wearing work clothes. The time I was thinking I could have been in my shed doing this project, that project. I don't have access to my tools, my workshop, nothing. Like, there's little things that you remember and think about once you lose them. That's the bizarre thing. Amongst, on top of all the other trauma, obviously, of your children and the emotional pain that you're going through. So I used to watch these videos of DIY channels where they're building a workbench. I used to visualize it. I used to think, when I get back, I'm going to build this bench. When you're manifesting these thoughts, you're manifesting something that seems hopeless and real. How is this possible? It's not going to happen. But why am I dreaming of me doing this? I was visualizing I'm going to build it like this. When I get back, I might build a bench like this. This is what I'll do in my shed when I get back, if I ever get back. When I get back, this is what I'm going to do. And guess what? On this channel, here now, I'm going to be putting out a video of me building a workbench. It's going to happen. And when I was there the other day, working on this bench, it reminded me of the time, again, I was sitting in the back of a van, friends out, when I sit at my mum's house or friend's house, sitting watching on my phone, YouTube, watching these videos, I thought, could I have genuinely believed it? Did I really believe it at the time that this was going to happen, that I saw it, I planned it, I was getting these ideas, and here I am 2 years later doing it? How's it possible? Remember the power of belief. When you believe something, that will determine your action, your subtext. Your subtext will determine your actions on a subconscious level. When sometimes you don't really believe in something, you procrastinate, you don't do it. When you believe something and you're in pain, you've got the power of concentration, you've got the biggest motivator. Pain is the best motivator in the world. It can push you, it can give you urgency. Remember that pain will give you urgency. That combined with rewiring your brain and using this pain, channeling this pain in the right way, combine that with putting in the work, like I said, the reading, the studying, bringing people around, going on these groups, getting the information you can. Like I said, when I was going through the system, there was no disqualified dads. This information wasn't there. The way the information is freely available and the amount of information it wasn't there. This information wasn't out there. But again, I've hustled, speak to this person, do that, watch this video, read up on this, try and do whatever I could. Ultimately started working out. I went from doing no training, nothing, hardly eating, drinking Lucozade, that's about it, to suddenly overnight 7 days a week training. When I was in a bad state, I used to go for a jog. I used to go for these runs. I was training in the park. I had no gym membership. I was training with bricks and blocks from the streets in the park. Training in my mum's front garden with a concrete block. There's a lot of things you can do. Look, where there's a will, there's a way. And when I used to go for a jog, I'm out of shape, out of condition, like in bad shape, but I could still run 10, 15, 20 laps and not even notice it, because that pain is a very powerful motivator. It's a very powerful tool. It gives you urgency, it gives you focus, it gives you concentration. Pain, like I said, pain can make people do things they wouldn't normally do, they couldn't normally do. So what I'll say to you is, this pain that you're feeling, harness this pain and channel this. Like I said, a nuclear energy can destroy a whole city, a whole island, or it can power a whole city or an island for productivity. Remember this. You can either take this pain and it will either self-destruct, you'll either implode or explode. So like I said, if you just hold it in and you let it self-destruct, negative habits, bad behavior, drinking, drugs, smoking, weed, whatever it is, gambling, a lot of these things, it is a downward road. You can never, it's a temporary release, and even then it's not a release. It's just temporarily trying to forget the pain. But I would say embrace the pain. My message is this: if you get nothing from this screen, let me tell you something. Embrace the pain, embrace the madness, and embrace the chaos. Because once you embrace the pain, the chaos, and the madness, it is no longer an issue. It no longer hurts. It's now a superpower. And in order to get your children back, the monster and the demons that we are facing, you are going to need to summon this superpower out yourself. You are going to have to summon this from yourself. The expectation you have of yourself now has to raise. You need to raise the bar. You need to raise the bar, not for anyone else, for yourself. You need to raise the bar of what you see, how you see yourself, and how you see yourself as a father, and how far are you willing to go for your children? How long are you willing to go for your children? How hard are you willing to go to see your children, to get closer to your children? So when the day comes, whatever happens, look, I know whatever happens in my situation, it does not matter. You know why? Because I know I will have given it everything. These are your children. As long as whatever happens, even if a day comes, God forbid, you've got to say, I've got to walk away, I tried my best. Listen, you gave it your all. As long as you know in your heart you gave it everything. And look, God knows what's in your heart. Allah knows what's in your heart. God knows what's in your heart. You know what's truly in your heart. You know truly if you gave this everything. Or did you give in to your fears? Everyone has fears. Remember, fear is not, even Mike Tyson talks about fear walking into the ring. He fears, he has that fear. Everyone has fear. There's demons. Everyone's fighting these demons. But Bruce Lee talks about it. Don't let your mind over matter. He talks about know yourself, know your mind, know yourself to know others. To conquer that escalated aspect of the brain that holds people back, fear can hold you back. Or once you embrace that chaos, like I said, or do you succumb to that fear? And everyone's fears are different. Remember, everyone has some form of insecurity. They have fear in their heart of something or other. You have to conquer yourself, know yourself. Pain will let you know who you are. This pain and trauma, when you separate from your children, you find out who you really are. When you end up in the trenches, you find out who you are. Like I said, I lived in the trenches for 2 years. Lived at the back of a van. I hustled. I got by. I survived. I fought the system. I started making content. I started coming up with ideas. I started coming up with creativity. I summoned everything I had because I realized for my children, I can't give a shit who anyone thinks or does. I need to do what I have to because that relationship, that bond is unique, me to my children. Doesn't matter how the world sees me, but I'm still their father. I need to summon every last bit of capability that I have. And yeah, that's the bottom line. Take the pain, embrace the chaos, embrace the madness. This is for your children. You got to give it everything. And you have what it takes. You just have to believe it. We all have it. You just have to believe it. Now, unfortunately, brother, the people, you got to understand the people. So when people say, like, for example, maybe it's just for get someone to see how they're doing. Let me tell you another thing. The other thing about people, let me tell you the other mistake fathers tend to make. They end up at the school gates. When people say, if you could just see him for a minute or two. Now, the problem with this is this. Yeah, sorry, still waiting for Dan. Let me just chase Dan up, Mr. Cossett. Let me message him now. Let me message. Apologies, Mr. Dan should be rabbiting on. Let me message Mr. Dan. Even if you can get on for 15 minutes. Let me see if you can even jump on for 15, 20 minutes. Right, I've messaged him. If you can jump on for 15 minutes, answer a couple of questions, would be good. Now, let me tell you something to all the fathers. When you're going through this pain and trauma, you don't see your kids, you haven't seen them, you don't know how they are, you don't know when you're that unknown or when you're gonna see them, that haunts you as well. And then what happens is they end up at the school gates. They end up seeing them somewhere from a distance. The problem is this: you're torturing yourself. Now, when you ain't seen your kids for, let's say you ain't seen them for 2 months, 3 months, you're on that roller coaster. Remember what I said, the emotional roller coaster. You get to a point where 6, 8 weeks, you ain't seen them. You just about got used to this idea that you're in the trenches, and then suddenly you get some contact, or you end up at the school gates. Guess what happens? You're back on that roller coaster. You've just suddenly, the roller coaster been going like that. You've been feeling sick. Like I said to you, when you enter the system, when you go through this pain initially, you enter that the most horrible, the fastest, the biggest, the scariest ride of your life. And what do you do when you get on a ride? You belt up, they put the metal bar down, and you hold on for dear life. If you do not hold on for dear life, that roller coaster is going to throw you everywhere, eventually fling you off, and you'll meet your end. That's the bottom line. Now, what happens is, when you initially get on it, you're struggling with all this 8, 9, 10 weeks. Then the roller coaster starts settling. It's now getting steady. You're just about getting used to it. Then you get a little bit of contact. You see your kids in a contact center. You end up at the school gates. You accidentally bump into them. And this is what happens. And this is what happens in family court. Fathers get triggered. They get triggered. When you get triggered, you cannot control. You can't contain your emotion. You try and meet with them. You say something. You've just gone back on that roller coaster, and that has now set you back by 8. You're at the back of the journey. You've started again. So when I say to you now after 3 years, imagine this. So let's say I saw my kids now. Let's say I went and see them. I saw them for 5 minutes, 10 minutes. Let's say I saw them for 6 hours, 8 hours. What then? What do they do after that? Number one, right? What state are they going to be in? Number one, you got to remember. And number two, what will that do to me? After 3 years, you see him for 1 hour, then you're not knowing if you're going to see him again, how you're going to see him again. What's the point? I don't listen. If someone said you can go see your kids for 5 times, I don't want to see it. Why? If they said you can see and spend 1 day with them, but that's it right now, why? What is that to achieve? My point is that is just torturing them, and they're torturing you. And when I'm saying to you, when you're initially at the trauma stages, listen, don't go to the school gates. Like I said, and this might sound harsh, you need to switch it off. You need to switch, like I said, you need to focus at the task at hand. Yeah. When you go there and see them for an hour or two, it will set you back by 8 weeks. You're back in your trauma. You're gonna move around in those trauma cycles. You're just gonna move. You're back at the start of the roller coaster. It's gonna set you back. All that strength that you've built, that resilience, that focus, that drive, that channeling, that pain is gone. You've just started again. So the first thing I'll say to you, and secondly, I say to fathers, I say to the NRPs, if you're a mother going through this as well, yeah, do not, again, keep watching videos of your kids. Do not look at photos of your children. You're just torturing yourself. Look at the task. Focus on the task at hand. This is what I'm talking about. Channel the pain. Selfish drive. Focus on the task at hand. So when you say you want to see, someone says you can go see your kids for a half an hour, hour, two, listen, unless you have consistent contact, let me tell you something which people don't realize. People underestimate this. Broken contact is worse than no contact. Broken contact, you stay on that roller coaster. You go from one ride to another every 4 weeks, 6 weeks, 8 weeks. A year later, you're still an absolute mess. You can't focus. It breaks you. You see their little faces, it's those little innocent faces. Remember this, you lay your life down for your kids. So when you see these little innocent faces, it starts turning, starts churning emotion in you again. Once these emotions start churning up inside of you again, guess what? You start becoming unpredictable. You start doing silly things. It can take you back. Like I said, you compartmentalize them. Kids, I love you, but you need to sit here for a minute because daddy needs to take care of business. You look at this like a job. I need to do this job. What will it take to do this job? What skills do I need? What information do I need? What skills do I have? Where do I bridge the gap? Who do I need to see? Where do I need to get money from? Do I need to hustle? Do I need to go to a day's laboring or something? Do you know what I mean? Do I need a bit of cash? You need to focus on these things. The kids, I love you. You're young. Yeah, look, if your kids are small, mate, you've got a whole lifetime. Don't worry. Right now, you need to sacrifice that little bit of pain that you have for them. Compartmentalize to the side, task at hand. It's as simple as. You just got to be very clinical about this. Like I said, you don't go into a fight emotional. When you go into a fight, martial arts is saying, if your opponent's got to you, he's got into your head, he's got you emotional. When he can extract emotion out of you, he's got you. It's got to be cerebral, clinical. You got to be focused on the task at hand. Selfish drive, yeah? Eyes on the prize, simple. What's the goal? Am I going to court? Do I need information? Do I need the C100? Who can help me? Do I need the McKenzie? Oh shit, look at the state of me. Do I need to look better? Do I need a bit of cash? Do I need to look after my health? Yes. Do I need to start exercising? Yes. Do I need to stop smoking weed? Yes. Do I need to stop drinking? Do I need to stop gambling? Whatever it is, this is an opportunity to get to know yourself and sort these things out and focus on the task at hand, eyes on the prize. So I say to people, broken contact is dangerous. Unless you have consistent contact, it's good. But broken contact is very dangerous. You're torturing yourself. Even now, let me tell you certain truth here. If I saw, for example, if I'm walking up the road, let's say I was driving past a car that I knew where my kids would, let's say for argument's sake, I wouldn't look. I wouldn't even look in. I don't want to see them. I don't want to see their faces. You know why? You don't know how this is going to impact you. And when your emotions are triggered, you understand it's a very primal instinct. When you see your children, it's a primal instinct to do something. It will trigger a primal element in you. And when something primal, instinctive is triggered, your actions can be unpredictable. What did I say about patience? The long game. You have to have the foresight to see the longevity, the long game. It's a bit like going to the gym. You're not going to see the result tomorrow, man. The result is you got to say, put in daily actions, daily habits, daily actions. the result will be in 6, 8 months' time. But I need to have the foresight to see that now, to just put in the daily action today. Same with family court. It's a marathon. It's not a sprint. Only way you win is you put your emotions aside. You compartmentalize them and move on. Take the pain. The pain will fuel your. Use the pain to fuel you to do the work, to do the growth. Emotional, mental, psychological, academic, spiritual, and physical. You work on all of these factors. When you go to family court, you put your best self forward. And remember this, one small action that you might do one day might be enough for you to open the door somewhere. One phone call might put you through to the right person who's got a good rapport in the course, who might get you a good result. But motion creates motion. Action, reaction. Remember this. If you do nothing, if you do absolutely nothing, the outcome is nothing. Nothing plus nothing equals nothing. Remember this. Action, reaction. I did YouTube and I made a few videos. I didn't know what I was doing. I've just done Instagram, this and that. And channels was not a big channel or nothing like that. But I ended up on the Brother Ardil, shout out to Brother Ardil from Islam channel. I ended up on there talking about this. I ended up on Just Pearl. Remember this? For those of you who don't know, I was on the Just Pearly Things. I was on Just Pearly Things talking about it in the divorce documentary, talking about this, highlighting all of this. I met Matt O'Connor, Fathers of Justice. We had a chat. We talked about the whole situation and the problem. So again, but action. That's what I'm saying. And trauma and pain. Let me tell you something about the trauma and pain. And you could argue that living out of the back of a van, right? Yeah. Hustling, surviving, training on the streets, all this sort of stuff, right? Yeah. Even now, I am surrounded by comfort. Yes, I am doing what I visualized months and months, and well over a year and a half ago, 2 years ago, what I visualized I'm doing now. It's manifested, it's happening, I'm doing, yeah? But there's a part of me, that sixth sense, that trauma, that adrenaline, I can't explain to you. You got to understand, when you're in trauma, let me tell you what it is categorically, because I remember it vividly. You're in a constant state of fight, flight, freeze, or fawn. It's that constant adrenaline. In a moment, I could summon up energy and strength that if I tried to summon this up now, I couldn't. It's not possible. It's just not possible to summon that now, because the urgency of that trauma and pain, you can summon up that power, that passion. There's an element that I miss. I miss that adrenaline, that strength. Like this, I can't tell you that feeling of being alive. And like I said, when you've lost your kids, man, you've lost everything. When you have nothing to lose, you're capable of anything. If you're capable of anything, then why can't you demand more from yourself? Remember this, at a time of adversity, you will fall to your standards. You won't rise to your ambition, but you will fall to your standards. Remember, when a situation occurs in life, whatever it is, you will fall to your standards. When you fall to your standards, the question then is, you go say, what is your baseline standard? How do you increase your standards? Remember this, and this is an example I'll give people, right? I give this example to a lot of people when I'm trying to motivate them. When you see a drug addict on the street, you can clearly see they're drug addicts, right? They're all over the place. Hygiene, clothing, most addicts, like proper junkies, you can see how they are. Now, a junkie can look like that, be in that state, but because remember their need, they have to have that hit, that pain. They're in physical pain. Pain is a very great motivator and driver. So what do? The body is craving that. They're in pain. They need that hit. They can still somehow scrape and muster up enough money for a hit. Now, if a junkie, how does a junkie muster up that much motivation, that much front, that much bottle, that lack of care of what people see or think? They can hustle, they can rob, they'll beg, they will do anything, but they can get that money to. So how resourceful someone can be when they're that desperate? So my point to you is, why can't we be that resourceful any given time? If someone held, like I said, I heard this example. If someone held a gun to your head and said, I need you to do this right now, something either that you're not physically capable of doing, something that you're not capable of putting, but guess what? You would probably give it a good go. You could probably do more than what you normally would. If I said to you right now, listen, do you reckon you can do this? When that pressure, so understand the sort of pressure I'm talking about. So my question is this, and I asked myself this question at the time. Why can't I demand this of myself in any given moment? Why couldn't I push myself like this on a normal day prior to all of this? Why can't you demand more for you? Why don't you have that self-belief before this happened, before this trauma? Because this trauma, like I said, your nervous system is shot to bits. Your programming is scrambled, and you can rewire your brain. And if you believe at that time saying, I can do this, I can do this, I can make this happen, you rewire your brain to believe that you are capable. And you start telling yourself that. You change your internal monologue. You start believing it. You start doing it. Your actions will change. Your actions will bring certain results. And when you see the results, guess what? It reaffirms your belief even further. Hence, subconsciously changing your actions. Once again, you push harder. More results, more self-belief, more reaffirmation. It's a cycle, but it has to come from the belief. Belief comes from hope and faith. That's what I said. You've got to believe in something bigger than yourself. You've got to build your spiritual gas tank. All of these things coincide together. And again, stay away from the negatrons. Stay away from the naysayers. Stay away from people that said, oh, there's no point, bro. Don't carry on. It's hopeless. Oh, I tried and failed. Do not listen to the horror stories. There are hundreds out there. Do not hang around with the negatrons. Those that hang around with negatrons, and unfortunately, the only criticism I have with fathers groups is, unfortunately, they drag each other down. They just spiral of moaning, and people that, unfortunately, there's a lot of moaning, but there's no action takers. They don't want to do anything. There's people that just talk for the sake of talking. You have the ability to recognize these things, recognize these people, recognize the negatrons, recognize the talkers, the moaners. Polite, high and by, stay away. Eyes on the prize. Don't get drawn into that pot. It's a whole pot of misery that they all just drag each other down. Do not get drawn into that. This is your gift now. This is your superpower. Demand better from yourself. Raise your standards. Take this opportunity to raise your standards. You will fall to your standards. Raise your standards. In life, when people are passionate about something, there's something they have to have. They can somehow get that money together to have it. If someone's always wanted this specific car, you always see them, but they're always skint, but they got that car that they want. Why is that? They somehow got it together for that. Purpose, goals, short-term goals, actions. Because that's what the standard is. He had to have that bare minimum. Some people, like I said, if you're into your cars, some guys, like I said, they're skint, but they have that top car. They managed to pull enough together for that. If you can be resourceful for something, what else could you be resourceful for if you applied yourself? Right, this is going on for 1 hour, 3 minutes. I'm going to give Mr. Ryan another 5 minutes. Looks like he's tied up. He's tied up with this thingy. So we'll give Mr. Ryan another 5 minutes. While we're waiting, let's run through some of these comments. There's been a lot of comments. I didn't expect it to have this many comments. So let's go through some of these comments. So yeah, this topic about motivation survival, this guy sparked it. Shout out to you. I think I've covered quite a bit, but yes, I'm going to do that. I'm going to do a series now, regular videos of survival, covering each and every aspect. I'm going to go walk that whole journey again, and we're going to cover every and each aspect of it. You see this when you said you're made of steel? Guess what? I could try and be humble and say, bro, you got to believe it. Believe you are that guy. Believe that you are that guy. You were always that guy. Once you believe that you are that, and the only way to then become that guy is you put in the work. You bridge the gaps where you're lacking. So in order to be made of steel, let's say you've never been to a gym. So you've got the spirit. Yeah, you've got that willpower. The foundation is there. Now, to get the conviction, what you got to do, you got to put in the work. Do you see what I'm saying? Why do you think I'm going jiu-jitsu? Why do you think I'm going to the gym? Why do you think I exert this physical stress onto me? Again, you got to go through something. In order to achieve something, to gain confidence, to believe something, you have to go through something. So then you back up your words with the action. You've got the belief. Go and put in the work. Oh, you've never fought a guy. Guess what? Go into the ring. Go into the gym. When I say ring, yeah, I mean go to a martial arts class. Do the things that you're scared of. Just have a little go. Play with it. See what you're made of. Push yourself. Because this is about growth now. You've got to build from this. You need everything asset that you can get together, every bit of skill, knowledge, asset on all realms to press forward. Remember that. Shout out to Darren. Darren's been here for his whole stream. We'll cover some of his comments as we move forward. Right, here we go. What's this? Again, we say, I don't know how you survived, but so glad you did, man. The value of prize. But listen, I appreciate that. Thank you. It's these sort of comments that keep pushing me to push further and further. Oh, look, Mr. Ryan's here. He'll be connected in a minute. Listen, man, nothing game another 5 minutes. Let's go through some more comments here. Yeah, listen, American fathers, we got to do it, man. I'm going to bring him on. Right, this here. My boss kept telling me how his daughter loved him, meaning mine. Yeah, you will notice things like this. Darren, you got bang on. You will notice these comments because what you're trying to say is my daughter would always find a way to come back and see me because she loves me. Do you see how what is indirect? He doesn't even realize what he's saying. You will notice all of these things when time comes, right? You will notice these things when you're in this situation. Right, we'll put this to Mr. Ryan when he's on in a sec. Question, Mr. Ryan, if your ex is not allowed to see your kids and you're proceeding with something extreme happens, your child is hospital, worst life taken, do your rights to right, what I'm going to do is Mr. Ryan's here. I'm going to bring him straight on. We're not going to waste any time. Mr. Ryan, good evening and welcome.
Hello. Hey, sorry to keep you waiting. I had a client conference which has just run. So apologies.
All right, perfect time, Mr. Ryan. Let's just jump into it. There's a question for you right here. If your ex is not allowing to see your kids and you're in proceedings, if something extreme happens, example, your child is hospitalized or worse, life taken, do you have rights then?
You always have rights if you have parental responsibility for your children. So you always have rights. The question is, can you access your children if the other parent is stopping you from doing so? I would like to think that even in the most extreme circumstances of acrimony, that if your child is hospitalized, by virtue of that, it has to be serious. I would like to think that that parent will contact you and let you know. In the event that they do not, but you become aware of it, you are entitled to turn up at that hospital unless you have a non-molestation in place or a restraining order in place stopping you from doing so. You are entitled to turn up at that hospital and say to the medical team, I'm dad, I'm mum, I've got parental responsibility, I need to know what's going on. So there are undoubtedly situations where parents will, despite the fact that it's in the best interest of their children, that dad or mum gets to know about an accident that they've had, but there are still parents who will stop that from happening, and that's desperately sad.
That is very sad. See, that's created another question by Mr. Ryan. So technically, could I phone up, say, my daughter's school and arrange to say, can I pop in? I would like to speak to you and my daughter. I'm her father. Your parental responsibility. Yes. You're getting in theory, like that's possible, isn't it? Or
you can contact the school and say, I've got parental responsibility. I'd like to pop in and whilst supervised by a member of staff. Well, parents' evening becomes a bit more of an issue because it's more public. Okay. But saying to the school, I would like to pop in, and with the supervision of a member of staff, I would like to see my child. They are following that scenario through. They are likely then to contact the other parent and say, look, this approach has been made. What is your view? And the other parent is going to say, no, it would be too distressing for the child. And at that point, you have to take that view because we're not looking to distress our kids. But there are occasions, and I've done it very recently, actually, with another dad, where we contacted the school because mother was being resistant. And we contacted the school, and the school were very much on board. And they let dad come in. And it was literally 5 minutes, but 5 minutes is better than nothing. And he spent 5 minutes with his lad, with the head teacher supervising, just to ensure that nothing happened, which obviously never going to. But we have done that. So, yes, that opportunity is available. We just have to be cautious that schools are not childcare centres, so they're not there. Their primary role is not to supervise parents, and nor will the school ever do anything that they believe that potentially would stress the child. So as long as we're aware of that, that there is a possibility of that.
Okay, fair enough. No, it makes sense. I mean, I think it maybe that could be a route for me in the future. It could be my only mate. It could be my only route left by the looks of it. If the courts don't respond soon.
Well, I've told you what you need to do. You need to train as a teacher and go and get a job there.
That's not a bad idea. Yeah, bloody hell. Fair enough. Right, let me see if there's any other questions in here. Yeah, I just went on a bit of a, trying to talk about survival and stuff like that whilst you were away. I don't know if you heard any of it. I was trying to cover some other aspects of it. If there's any other questions in the chat. Is this a question about some advice that periodically ask them officer contact can be careful how you ask, but the court will agree with her when she says he's never asked me to see them if you say you're scared of them. That's on the back of another conversation going on here, so just bear with me.
Yeah, I take the comment. It's a very standard comment in court that parents will say, parents who are in dispute, in conflict, will say all manner of stuff in court. He's not seen the children, she's not seen the children, but then they've never asked. I've never provided an update because I've never been asked.
Fair enough. Right, here's a question from Mr. Gallagher. How much weight does a Section 7 recommendation hold with a judge if it recommends children live with me and both children have wrote letters to the judge asking to live with me?
Okay, well, we'll deal with that in two parts. The Section 7, which is the recommendations of CAFCAS. CAFCAS are the dedicated social work department of the family court. By virtue of that, the family court has to be incredibly respectful of the recommendations they made. Otherwise, what's the point of them being there? Most judges will, on 99% of the time, agree with the recommendations of CAFCAS. Where the CAFCAS recommendation is, taking your example here, Mike, that the CAFCAS recommendation is that the children live with you, and the children have both expressed that in a letter to the judge, then it strikes me that it's highly likely, and I'm presuming that they currently don't live with you, it is highly likely that the judge will look favourably upon a change of residency order, where the children move over to your care for reasons that we don't know and we don't need to know. But to answer the question, yes, 99% of the time, the recommendations of CAFCAS, regardless of whether it's in a Section 7 or in a 37 or whatever, are taken on board by the judge and usually acted upon, unless the judge has a violent objection, which is rare. It's happened on a couple of occasions with cases with me over the years, but the bulk of the time, CAFCAS are king.
Fair enough. Okay. Right. There's a question or a comment. Right. I know someone who has never seen his boy since he was a baby. Took a few years to get to court. Once they did, judge ruled that best to wait until child is 16 and then child can make up own mind. As I said earlier, before Mr. Ryan came on, there's a lot of horror stories out there that you hear. But like I said, every case has a lot of nuances and differences, subtle details that we don't know, and we don't know why that outcome. So even though I say we hear stories like this, I say to people, these are horror stories. You shouldn't let it deter your focus. But anyway, if you could comment on that, please, Mr. Ryan.
Again, it was a difficult one because obviously we don't know the circumstances, but I will read between the lines and draw my own conclusions. My conclusions are that one parent has not seen the child since the child was a baby. And when you say a few years has gone past to get into court, let's assume that few years probably is 3, 4, 5 years potentially. The reason that the judge ruled to wait until the child is 16 is because the judge's view will be that child will be habitually comfortable in the life that they're in. If they've never known the parent who is absent from them, if they've never known that parent since being a baby, and reality is they'll have no recollection of them.
Mhm.
What that parent is essentially asking the court to do is to rule for a situation whereby a child is introduced to a stranger and asked to form a relationship with that stranger. The judge's view will be that the confusion and the potential for distress on that child
Mhm.
to manage that situation far outweighs the benefit of doing it. And without knowing the circumstances of that case, but there are occasions where I would agree with that. And so the judge has taken the view that says that child should be advised when they're 13, 14, 15 years old that there is a parent out there that they're unaware of, and they should be given the opportunity at 16
Mhm.
to engage with that parent, because then they have the maturity to be able to cope emotionally with that situation. To present a perfect stranger to a 5-year-old child has the potential to cause massive distress. So I get it. I get why the judge did that.
Okay, I can understand what you're saying, Mr. Ryan, but what are the chances of what are the chances of at 16 him then getting contact and the child wanting to see him or mother playing ball? I mean, it's not to be
Once
negative, but
once he's 16, he's outside the family court's jurisdiction, so the child does what he wants. So at that point, do what you like. Family court is no longer concerned.
okay, okay.
And
This is
coming
what
back
he's
to, I'm
coming.
reading the comment down the bottom of the
Okay,
screen. So
yeah.
yeah, surely, yes, you're right. They do get introduced to teachers. They do get introduced to friends. But this stranger, they're being asked to accept as a parent. That is a massive emotional hurdle for a child. And we don't know the circumstances of the case. There may be something more specific. But to introduce a parent when a child has gone through the formative years of their life, which is from years 2 to 6, they are regarded as the formative years. So when a child has gone through those formative years without a parent and probably not even having the knowledge of a parent, it is massively distressing and a huge emotional hurdle for that child to then be told, oh, by the way, there's a parent you don't know, and guess what? We're going to introduce them and we expect you to start to form a relationship. That's just unfair on the child.
No, yeah. Tricky one, yeah. No, fair
It is a
enough.
very tricky one. It is a very tricky one. But I'm answering from the, if I was answering from the perspective of the parent, then goodness me, we need to do all we can to re-engage with the parent. But I was answering on the perspective of the child, and from the child's point of view. From the child's point of view, that would just be too distressing.
Yeah, yeah. Difficult guys, but that is a reality of the situation there.
The court,
Mr. Ryan.
the court's, the court's directive, the court's objective is the children, not the parents. Parents are academic. It's the children.
All right, he's come back with a comment down. We've got to keep this going, keep this thread going. So he's come back. Not that one, sorry. He's come back with a. It's okay. The story gets more scary. Mother married again when child was 6. Okay, so the mother marries. I mean, gets a partner in the house. Sort of complicates the situation a bit more, then, doesn't it?
It's just become more complicated because now, when we've got step parents involved and we don't know what relationship the step parent has been, how they've been introduced, and what their relationship is with the child. The whole dynamic of trying to introduce, introduce really for the first time parents when children, as I say, have gone past their formative years, it's just fundamentally difficult. It's just fundamentally difficult. And often, we do have to, and I, sadly, I have just taken it, and remind me, I need to talk about something else in a minute. But sadly, I have just made that decision. I've made the decision on behalf of my client a couple of weeks ago. Well, yeah, probably about a month ago now, where I sat down with my client and had a very long conversation. He'd not seen his lad since the lad was 6 months old. The lad is now 7. And I sat down, we've been in court fighting it for a year. And I sat down with him and said, look, I've reflected on this, and I don't believe we're doing this child any good by pursuing this matter. And I think we need to step away.
You had a chat with father. And
I had a chat with father and said, I said, I think, and father and I were pursuing, a re-engagement with the child. but I reflected on it. I could see how the child was how the child was in their normal life. I'd read all the reports from social services and CAFCAS. They had a very balanced, very settled life, were doing very nicely, thank you. And I'd said to my client, I said, look, I'm not sure that this is now in the best interest of this child. This child has a mum who they've known all their life. This child has the person they regard as dad, who, all right, is a stepdad, but they regard them as dad, and they've known them since they were about 18 months old. So he's always been dad. What it would just be so confusing for that child for us to bring my client in and say, no, actually, he's not dad, he's dad. And so we talked it through, and I was quite happy to pursue it if he wanted to, but I said, in my professional view, I think we need to back off this. And it was a tough decision. It was a very upsetting decision, very emotional decision. But we did take the decision, and in the interest of that child, we went back to court and said we're going to pull away. And to be fair, the judge was very sympathetic towards the dad. My client was very sympathetic and said he respected that as being an incredibly brave decision to make.
Yeah, man, flip it. It's tough. It's tough.
Tough, very tough. Yeah, very tough. But I was going to mention something else, and I'm going to mention it now.
Yes, go
on. This year, and given that I've joined this incredibly late, I apologise for bringing this up at this late stage. But this year, I have had 4 clients who are either existing clients of mine or past clients of mine, and I tend to keep in touch with all of my clients who have taken their own lives. And my 4th one was last week, where a dad who I had finished with in family court in March, we'd got an arrangement for him to see his daughter, and all was good with the world, but we'd started to have difficulty, and it was not working. The last 6 months have just been horrendous. He hasn't been able to see her really. The mother has been awkward, incredibly awkward. Every time he goes to collect the child, she would go out, etc., all very horrible. We were warming up to really return to court and try and work out what we're going to do next. And it just became too much for him. And he took his own life on Tuesday morning of last week. And that's, I just think, the worrying thing for me is we are a very small, legal practice, very small legal practice. And I've had 4 experiences with clients, dads, all of them, who have taken their own life this year. So if we amplify that by the number of practices in this country,
it's 10 men a day post-separation. What's
going on? What is going on? And the sad thing is, and I appreciate that disqualified dads obviously has an objective to represent dads, and that's absolutely the right thing to do. And I fight hard to bring balance into that and say, mum has as many issues as dad does. But the comment I will make here is that in the nearly 16 years now, in the nearly 16 years that I've been doing this, I've never had a mum take her own life. But I've lost count of the number of dads.
Well, this is it, Mr. Ryan, and that's the statistic of 10 men a day post-separation. Where it comes from, like you said, and you're on the front line, and you deal with this pain and trauma on a daily basis. And like you said, you can see when these men pass that breaking point, and sometimes too much is too much. And before you came on stream, like someone mentioned, is there any way you could just go see your kids, 5 minutes, 10 minutes, hour, whatever? And I said, what's the point? I said, broken contact is worse than no contact, because the broken contact keeps them on this roller coaster. So like this father, like you just mentioned, he got access, he got contact. Then 6 months, when they started playing with his contact, he's just on this roller coaster, up and down, roller coaster of emotion. You're up, you're down, you're up, you're down. And when you're constantly going around in that, it does become unbearable. And as I mentioned to people, there was a time I used to go to sleep hoping, and like I said, it wasn't even like an emotional or a mental health, a stressful decision. It was a genuinely logical decision that I'd be happy not to wake up tomorrow if I just went off in my sleep. Like, I'd be happy with that. Like, it's a logical thought process. And it's what I'm saying. The broken contact is more damaging because it's that limbo of roller coaster. It never stops. And you just highlighted that again of how dangerous that is. This is the point I was trying to make earlier. And you know, just highlighted how dangerous that is.
No, very much so. So incredibly sad news. Incredibly sad news.
Thank you for all your hard work. Please keep going. If you need help to change this, I'll be with you disqualified. Yes, listen, just want to take this opportunity as a reminder. I am still playing with this idea of this 100, I'll say, people gathering, the 100-person gathering. And I just want to point out there, keep spreading that idea. And there's one thing I want to highlight. As far as this gathering is concerned, right? And this has been an issue that's plagued this whole issue with NRPs throughout of coming together. I say, put your politics aside. There are going to be grandparents there, uncles, aunts, sisters, mothers. Do you know what I mean? It's going to be a mix. People from Asian, Muslim, white, black, Chinese, whatever. We all need to pull together, because the challenges we are facing we're all facing it, regardless of background, color, race, creed. We need to come together as parents, NRPs, 90% who happen to be fathers. But along with the fathers, like I said, a child loses contact with one side of the family, grandparents, aunties, do you know what I mean? Cousin brothers and sisters. It's a lot behind one child. It's a whole one side of the family. So the 100-man's gathering, the 100-person, 100 people get together. I'm still pushing that idea. Yeah, if you can get, like I said, 100 is not a lot to ask for. If you can get 100 together, like I said, email me, disqualified.dads@gmail.com. I'm still getting that idea, and sometime next year we may be able to pull this off. So yeah, keep that in mind and keep spreading that idea. What does it say? Right, okay, this is a question, so let's answer this. Is X allowed to make her own rules and timetable if the court has not been involved yet? That's a good question, actually.
Good question. Again, I'll start with you both have parental responsibility. The decisions that are made should be joint decisions. One parent, does not have the right to dictate how life is going to be. That's not how life works. It should be a discussion, a mutual discussion where you both agree what it is going to happen by way of rules or timetable or how you're going to conduct yourselves. Having said all that, on lots and lots and lots of occasions, there is one parent who dictates. There is one parent who says, this is how it's going to be, and you can like it or you can lump it. Yeah, because I'm the resident parent, I'm the primary carer, the children are in my care, I call the shots.
The resident parent controls the game.
And it's at that point that you then have to start to entertain whether you should try mediation and see whether that gets you anywhere, or whether you should just cut your losses and head off into court. But if we start with the opening comment, which is both parents should be agreeing things together.
It comes down to, again, I'll say to Mr. Chaudhry, what it comes down to is what type of communication do you have with your parent? If you're on a good talking terms and good co-parenting terms, then yeah, anything's possible. But 9 out of 10 of these situations there's a breakdown in communication. It's a hostile exchange. And when you have a hostile exchange with someone, one party walks away trying to get at the other party. And unfortunately, the reality of the situation is resident parent controls the game. They have the power. They hold all the cards. They've got the ace, unfortunately. So you are sort of constantly on the back foot. You're fighting from the back foot. That's the reality, unfortunately. That's how it is. And then you end up in family court. That's how it goes. Mr. Ryan, are you okay for time? I mean, I've been getting an hour and a half now, so if there's any more questions, we'll try and cover one.
I was going to say, as we head towards the wee small hours, if there's any more immediate ones, and then failing
that. No, there's nothing immediate, Mr. Ryan. I just want to say, listen, thank you everyone for joining. Thank you everyone for your patience, your comments, everyone that's contributed. It's been, I can't believe you've gone an hour and a half. I hope you found this stream beneficial, even though Mr. Ryan was only here for a short time.
Apologies.
Yeah, I'm gonna have a word with him after this about his timekeeping. Yeah, sorry.
Not good. You see, I knew I shouldn't have had that nap.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, I would say to everyone, please like, subscribe, follow, and share. Shout out to American Fathers. Thank you, brother. We appreciate you. Just one final one here, maybe one last one. How about if the court knows about the timetable, the private arrangement, but the other side still stops contracting and wait for court? If there's no court order, ultimately they can do what they like. That's the truth. There's no court order in place. The resident parent holds the card. That's the reality. So look, to Mr. Marcus, this is why you end up in family court with a C100. You need a court order. If you made a private arrangement with your missus, get it on paper. What's that order called when you take it to court to make it official?
Consent order.
Consent order. If you've got a private arrangement, to give it any weight or value, you need to then back it up with a consent order. So you go to the family court, say, we need a consent order for the arrangement that we have in place. That's what you need to do. But on its own, word of mouth between you and the ex, he who is the resident parent, he or she who is a resident parent, is holding the ace card. They've got the power, they're calling the shots. What I will say to you is this: if you have access and they're the resident parent, you need to be diplomatic and tactful. You do the opposite of what you want. You ask for the opposite of what you want, because the ex by nature is going to potentially resist or rebel against what you want. So you need to operate one step ahead. If she thinks it's been inconvenient to you, she will do that. So I would say you need to think tactfully. And if you have contact, put your ego aside. Don't go in with a combative attitude saying, I have rights, I'm a father. Just play the game, because the key is you want to see your children, not get back at her, not show you're in charge and you're not scared. Keep it child focused. Your end goal is, I want to see my child. I need to smile, play along, take a box of chocolate, a bit of roses every now and then, give her some money to help out with the kids, whatever it is. Remember, your focus is your children. And what I said earlier about patience is it's a skill that's underrated. So eyes on the prize, not your ego. Put your ego aside. Kids at the forefront. Play the game, pass the ball, whatever you need to do. Keep the contact going, because if it does end up in court, ultimately, look, it's still a battle. It's not a walk in the park. It's an uphill journey. So best avoid it. If you got contact, play the game. That's my advice anyway. What do you think, Mr. Ryan?
I agree entirely. I couldn't say it any better.
Guys, thank you for watching. Like, subscribe, follow, and share. Apologies we weren't here last week. We'll try and get one extra one in this month somewhere to answer any questions, me and Mr. Ryan. Thank you for tuning in, and we will see you on the next one.
See you, folks.